What is up, Movie Trivia Schmodown fans? Welcome back to A Certain Point of View, our weekly show here with Brian and Jake as we cover everything going on in the Movie Trivia Schmodown. We are on show number 8. That is right, show number 8 in our series, and we are very excited about it. We're back to talk a lot of good stuff. Today, we don't have a ton of matches to talk about, obviously, with everything going on in the world. We only have one match a week now, and so we're going to have to come up with new ways and new things to talk about things, and today we have done that by doing some dream match / dream team scenarios. Things maybe that we have seen in the league that we want to see more of, or this player teamed up with this player, or this team playing this team. But we are going to be talking about that a little bit later on the show. But first, we're going to be covering the latest match in the Schmodown, which is the Pride versus the Butcher Boys. We have seen Who's the Boss versus the Odd Couple, but we're going to be saving that for next week, not just because of the one match a week, but because of a little bit of things that have happened inside the match that could lead to a much larger conversation. So for now, that's what we're going to be doing. But before we get to that, let's talk to my co-host, Brian. How are you doing today, man?
Good. We just finished watching the Odd Couple Who's the Boss match.
And that reaction will be up on Friday, by the way.
Yeah. It's funny because I feel like more stuff came from and is going to come off of the one we're going to talk about today than the one that's definitely more important and bigger 100%. Than this
They kind of coincide with each other. Who's the Boss and Odd Couple, obviously the bigger match, but I think it's because the Pride is like the beginning of it all. It like starts this like downward conversation of like what's going on essentially.
Yeah. And the stuff that came from it probably gave it an extra elevation of importance. So, yeah.
Cool. All right, well, let's go and start with the Pride, guys. The Pride versus the Butcher Boys. We have Ben Goddard versus Ben Goddard and Rachel Silvestrini versus Vinny Mancuso and Owen Mugen. We have seen both Ben Goddard and Rachel Silvestrini before. Silvestrini this is her third season, so she is the vet in this match. But we've seen Ben Goddard before, obviously in his singles match versus RB3, where he did take the victory. And if I'm not mistaken, he took the TKO in that match. That was the first studio match of the year, so I'm not 100% sure on that one. But we have not seen anything from Vinny Mancuso or Owen Mugen. They're brand new. They're for the dungeon. Kaiser's one of Kaiser's teams, and so we weren't really knowing what to expect here. But I will say this: both of them started off very strong. Right, they came out on fire as a 15-14 round. But Ben Goddard once again had a perfect round. He is 2 matches in so far into his Schmodown career. Obviously, he works for SCN. He works behind the scenes on the show, and so he knows the ins and outs of the show. But playing under the lights is a little bit of a different story, and he's 2 for 2 in perfect rounds in a game so far. That's a pretty big deal, and he's proving himself to be not just like a lethal rookie, but a lethal player overall.
Yeah, I mean, that's the level of Tom. When Tom was playing with Video Drew in the Looney Bin, like, guy wasn't missing. Mm-hmm. And people were like, who is this? Like, this guy's on fire. And obviously he's not probably getting the hype that a Looney Bin type would have, but it's known he's not someone to be messed with now. At least in my opinion. I mean, he hasn't missed in 2 rounds. In the
2 first rounds,
Two first rounds. So, I mean, if you're not taking that seriously, that's a mistake on you at this point. So, I mean, you haven't been able to assess a weakness because he hasn't missed a question. So, yeah, if you're sleeping on it, then it's not gonna look good for you because he's on a tear, an absolute tear right now.
Yeah, and we had talked about it way back when the draft happened. I'm trying to scroll through our doc here. Here it is. We had talked about how because we were at the draft luckily, and we were able to see kind of how Kate Mulligan and Grace Hancock kind of went through this draft process. And they happened to get a massive steal in the 5th round with Rachel Silvestrini, right? We were not expecting her to go that low. There were dozens of other players taken before.
We were sitting behind him, like,
You're shocked.
multiple times going,
Yes.
oh, here's Rachel, not Rachel.
Yes.
Here's Rachel.
And
not
we
Rachel.
couldn't believe that she had gone as far as she did. And she's had the bad luck of the draw ever since she's entered the league, right? She's had 2 partners who she's had to carry the load for and kind of be, as she mentioned on Backstage this past week, she had to be there emotionally for the team and to kind of bring them back into the games. Yeah. And she's proven herself in individual, or singles, I should say. She took John Roker to the wire last year in the tournament, proving herself as a singles player. And so we knew what she was capable of. But little did we know that Ben Goddard, who was drafted the following round, would have been the ultimate steal of the draft.
Yeah.
Kate Mulligan walked away with 2 giant steals, 2 rounds in a row for 5th and 6th picks. And right now, yes, Paul and Tom are the bread and butter of the Den, right? They're the team that everyone wants to see. Mm-hmm. They're the team that everyone expects to be there. As a backup, you have someone like Rachel and Ben together who seem to be clicking on very, very high cylinders.
Yeah.
And Ben, who has proven himself constantly in multiple categories, but Rachel, who's so vastly different than he is, proving herself constantly. The Pride looks like somewhat scary, and they proved it throughout the match.
Yeah. I mean, it's not this. I mean, I wouldn't say it's the same level of caliber playing. Who was it? Deep 13 that they played? No.
Paul and Tom played Deep 13. Yeah.
Compared to Butcher Boys, but they're the winning team on this faction right now.
And they walked away with the TKO.
Yeah.
And we'll talk about it.
So, I mean, and they were solid throughout the whole entire time. So it's you should be on notice for them because they might be like one of those, like, they don't look like they're going to be a powerhouse, but they could end up sneaking away into this thing and be a team that a powerhouse sleeps on, and they're going to knock them out.
100%.
So, if you've got someone that is not missing first round questions, and Rachel, if she's not missing a point in a round, she's probably only missing maybe 1 or 2 at most. They're not someone to be treaded on lightly, and I think they showed it. And
their knowledge is so different from each other.
Exactly. They complement each other in opposite ways. They if one goes right, the other goes left, but they come back together because they fill in each other's gaps. And not a lot of teams do that. You see a lot of these teams where they're the same kind of strengths and they're just super strong at it. But when you have a team that is strong in this side and strong in this side and work together, that's the most dangerous combo because they can pick up, if they get out of that first round, they can fill in each other's questions that the other one doesn't know.
And they did that in the second round.
Yeah.
They really did that in the second round. So they went into round 2 with the lead. They had a 1 point thanks to Goddard's perfect round poll with the Scarface quote. So they ended up spinning first. They decided to spin first in the second round, and they spun Adam Sandler, and they decided to keep it, which a lot of people probably wouldn't do. It's a very different kind of category. It's something that we don't see very often. And now that we know that they can capitalize on it, it can be considered one of their strengths. So they went 6 for 6, and they had 3 1-pointers and 3 2-pointers. So they split it right down the middle. They did exactly what they needed to do during the round. They got their points. They went to multiple choice when they needed to, and they didn't allow any steals, which is the big thing, obviously, because they only had a 1 point lead up until this round. And so spinning Adam Sandler on your first spin and choosing it is a big deal because it shows that your knowledge is so different compared to a lot of other competitors. I don't know very many competitors that would land on an Adam Sandler and be okay with sticking with an Adam Sandler.
Yeah, it's funny because when I first saw that, I was like, oh, no.
Yeah, because you had them, correct?
Yeah.
I think you had them in the match, and you went with Adam Sandler.
Yes, yeah. And it's funny because, I was like, I don't know where this is going to go. And I actually ended up getting a handful of these questions right. And so were they. It almost was kind of like if you just watch the movies once, they weren't, in my opinion, the most when I saw Adam Sandler, I thought they were going to be pulling
It feels like the most multiple choice friendly category.
Yeah.
Because if you hear something, you're like, oh, okay, that's it.
Yeah. So, and in no way am I saying they got like an easy category, because who knows where that could have gone.
Well, a lot of his movies are service level.
Yeah. So, they landed on a category that, in my opinion, that you kind of took a gamble on, and the gamble paid off. So, I mean,
yeah. So they walked away with 9 points on their round. They went up 24-14. So they had a 10-point lead going into this, going into the Butcher Boys spin, who ended up spinning Scarlett Johansson on the first spin, which you called. And then they ended up respinning and landing on the category that I thought they were going to land on, which was Kevin Smith. So they ended up going Kevin Smith. But unfortunately for them, that is Rachel Silva-Sereni's strength through and through. That is her go-to. If it's ever on the wheel and they spin her spinner's choice, Ben Goddard's been like, you go for it, girl.
Yeah.
And she proved it in this round, because the Butcher Boys go 3 for 6. They get 6 points, 3 2-pointers, but they allow 4 points in steals for the Pride, 2 1-pointers, 1 2-pointer. Obviously, the 2-pointer being the controversial one for the Star Wars question, which we will talk about at a later date, or possibly even here. So after round 2, the Pride had an 8-point lead, 28-20. 28 points after 2 rounds for that team,
insane.
for that debut team. Yeah. That's big time.
That's a end of the game for a decent team. Not a first time ever playing, not knowing how well I work with this partner type team. And
well, just put it this way: if they had gotten a chance to get all 3 of their 3 third round questions, they would have broke the team records with 38 points.
Yeah,
that's wild. 38 points in a match. That's crazy. That's almost perfect.
Yeah, I was
almost perfect.
Almost perfect. And yeah, she didn't even have to think about those Kevin Smith answers. She was just literally like, that's the answer. That's the answer. That's the answer. And you could tell, because she was ecstatic when it landed on that one, because she knew if they stumbled, she was going to get those points. So, I mean, and that again goes into the category of, look at Goddard. Goddard probably wouldn't have known those, but she absolutely knows those. And that fills in a gap, because now if that's ever on the board, they know not to touch Rachel with Kevin Smith at all, because she's going to nail it.
Yeah.
And I mean, and Ben can relax, because now if they ever land on it, they can take that one and he can just coast. So, I mean, like, it's scary. Like, they're going to be a scary team to come up against. Just 28 points by 2 rounds is insane.
Yeah, and obviously that's helped to some steals. Yes, that's helped with some steals.
Yeah.
Which definitely put that in their favor. But let's talk about the Butcher Boys here for a second, because I feel like even after watching this match, I'm still like in the unknown with them. Like, I really don't know where they are as, not just as a team, but as individual players, because round 1 questions are round 1 questions. Like, we know what they are. A lot of people who go into a showdown, or even us, play-alongs, we can get a lot of the round 1 questions. They're very surface level questions, right? They're not softballs, but they're questions that require just a little bit of thinking, and then you can probably pull the answer most of the time. And so you don't ever get a vibe of how players are in the first round. A second round, that's typically where you get it, but again, they spun 2 categories that we have no idea if they know about. Kevin Smith, they can probably pull some of them like they did, especially with the more recognizable Kevin Smith movies like a Mallrats or something like that. They spun away from Scarlett Johansson, so they don't want to do that. But, like, what else do we really know about them, right? It's very mysterious at this point. I have no doubt that someone like a Owen Mugen, who looks like a movie guy, knows his stuff, but I don't know what his strengths are.
It's funny because his strength was Star Trek.
It was sci-fi fantasy. That's what it was. You're correct. You're right. Yeah. And I don't really know what Vinny's are. Like, does he just kind of know like general movie trivia knowledge, or?
Yeah, it just kind of like, I almost just got a vibe of like, if they know it, they know it. Like that type of like, I don't even know how to describe it. It was just kind of like, you couldn't tell if they knew an answer or not, because you didn't know if that was something they were comfortable with. So, I mean, I don't know. I just, that's literally the way I like would describe them, is like, I don't know. I don't know if they could get really good. I don't know if they just first time jitters. I don't know if it was the category they got stuck with. It's like, I don't know. Like, I mean, we figured out what the Pride's good at, where like
A lot.
which is a lot. We know that they can support each other if one doesn't know one thing. Butcher Boys, I'm kind of just like, okay. Like, and it's sad because that's kind of almost how I feel like the dungeon has been.
I was just going to say that. Kaiser and the dungeon feels so... They feel like they're outside the circle right now.
Yeah.
Like, it's so weird to think about because they have Kevin Smets leading them.
Yeah.
But outside of Kevin Smets and an Eric Zipper, who has proven himself since he
We haven't
has
even
kind of
seen
made
Robert
this
Parker
chin.
go yet, so we don't. I mean,
It's just so like where are they? Like they feel like there's some like this distant void, and we don't know who they are, what they're doing. Obviously, they have Video Drew with the new Tom, and we saw them play. But again, even during that match, in our reaction, we questioned ourselves like, okay, we're not really feeling it right. That it's a very weird state for them.
Yeah, I didn't find myself like loving. Dungeon was like one of my favorite things to watch last year. This year, I'm just kind of like,
The whole faction thing is like thrown for a loop.
Yeah.
It really has the
It's-
team aspect.
yeah, I'm just wondering what's going on. I mean, we haven't seen them as much. They've only played, I think, 3 matches, but they've lost all 3. So, I mean, I don't know. I don't know what's going on in that realm, that dungeon, but
Yeah, every time they lose, Kaiser just says that we're gonna lock him in the dungeon with the Smets.
yeah.
Like at some point for us, that's gonna get a little tiresome.
Yeah, I mean, I almost feel like it's kind of just like they just like throwing the book at the wall, and they're just like, I don't know what to do, and it's frustrating because you have someone like Smets that's like
It was one of the best in
Yeah,
the league
exactly.
in general, in
Could
every
be one
in
of the
every
best,
anything.
like,
yeah,
ever, and it's just like I don't know. It's funny because it almost makes me just wish that like Kaiser and Smets were their own faction, just because.
well, that's how it was last year.
Yeah.
They only had a couple of them. They had Oyama, they had Smets, and they had Zipper. Right? It was just a couple of them. They might have had 1 or 2 more on their side, but are they Brandon Hanna as well? I believe it, if I'm not
I
mistaken.
think they just need another. It almost seems like they need like another name or another face or another leader, someone with experience.
Maybe just a match to put them back in like good graces.
I think. Well, yeah, that, and I just think I feel like I need to see someone that has like experience and has been around, because you can go on a lot of these teams, and each one of these teams for the most part has something like that. With, I mean, you could say Smets, but Smets is relatively new. Like, he's still, to me, almost kind of new. Like, he's not like a green thumb in any way because he's a champion, but like it's fun. He hasn't been around like a Snyder or a Merle or a Roca or something. And each one of these teams, for the most part, kind of almost have that, except for the dungeon. And if they don't have that, their manager is. Kaiser's new for the most part, and everyone on his team is.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just kind of like, and it almost kind of shows in a way. Like, I mean, we haven't seen Smets. Smets could literally come out and just wipe the floor clean.
More than likely will.
But that's just one person.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I hope something gets figured out. Maybe Robert Parker is going to be that person that sparks us back up again. If he loses, I don't know what they would do. So, and I wasn't really impressed when they played against Butcher Boys playing against the Pride. I was just kind of like,
Yeah.
I walked out of there going, the Pride is good.
Yeah.
And completely forgetting the Butcher Boys.
Yeah. It'll be interesting. I mean, the Dungeon does have a match coming up with Brittany Young, who is playing in an upcoming singles match, so that may help them. But yeah, we'll see. I think that I don't know if they need to make a change yet. We know Smets, obviously he's there, and if Robert Parker shows up, they do have Adam Witt in the Star Wars division who showed up against Sean Sullivan.
That's true.
But again, the Star Wars division just seems like it's a one man race right now. So we'll see. I think that if Cuckoo's Mess be able to get back on their feet a little bit and get a match, maybe that gets them back into the fold. But The dungeon is definitely a giant question for now.
I think Video Drew needs a stronger partner. I think she needs.
We haven't seen much of Tom yet, or Rick Hong, I should say.
New Tom.
New Tom. I'll hold out for that.
I'm just saying I want her with someone that has experience, or with someone. I would love to see her with someone that is like a really like knowledgeable character.
She it won't. I don't know what the rules are as far as switching teams or whatever, but we know that when she initially, before she even got traded, she said she wanted to be traded because she wanted to be Vinny Mancuso's partner. They're in the same faction, so who knows what the rules are? I doubt that'll happen, but I will hold out for Rick Hong because we've only seen him once, and who knows what's going to happen. But yeah, that leads us to our third round here, and so obviously them having an 8-point differential, they have to answer all 3 of their questions to even have a shot here. And the Butcher Boys were able to do their 2-pointer and their 3-pointer, but they missed the Julia Roberts Mystic Pizza question, which was the fish in the car, the 5-pointer. And so the Pride walked away with the victory. The TKO 28-25 didn't even have to answer a third-round question, and they walked away with the 2 points here, which is a big deal because the FinTalk Exchange has been out in the lead for a long time. They have a massive lead, and someone needs to start cutting that chase. And it looks like for the time being, it looks like it's going to be both the Den and the Swag kind of nipping at the heels. And so the Dungeon definitely could have used it, yes, but they're a brand new team, so we didn't know what to expect. But for the Pride and 2 experienced players, even though Goddard has 2 matches under his belt, he's been around the league. It definitely seemed like it worked out the way it probably should have with the Pride winning.
Yeah, I mean, you kind of almost like got a sense the Pride was going to walk out of this like almost
unscathed.
Almost after the first round, just the way it was kind of going, you could tell by momentum.
They had a little bit more of like I guess for lack of a better word, just a little bit more energy around them. Like there's a little bit more of like just like a shining light around them compared to the Butcher Boys.
Yeah, and it just kind of like they just seemed like nothing. It was going to be one of those things where like you could throw anything at them and nothing's going to stick. They're just going to bat everything, and it showed. It showed in I don't know how to describe it. It just it almost seemed like kind of over before it even began.
Mm-hmm.
It just, I don't know how to describe it. I was like, maybe it's just Goddard being like not being able to miss at this point. It's just kind of like, damn, what is going to be the thing that stops him and anyone else coming at this team? And it certainly wasn't the Butcher Boys that day. So.
Yeah. All right. Well, that concludes our conversation on the lone match for this week. And we're going to be talking about that just a little bit later when we cover our point standings up to this match. And so let's go ahead and get to our weekly topic. Again, this is a new segment we're doing here on the show. When we don't have much to talk about, we're going to be kind of implementing new things to talk about. And that might be a lot more often than not coming up in the next number of weeks or months, depending on how everything goes in the world. So for this week, we are talking about our dream matchups and dream teams that we would like to see, things that if we could place anybody wherever we want or any team against any team, this is what we would want to see. It can be in any league, it can be real, it can be hypothetical, it can be something that we've already seen that we could see again. And so we're just gonna have a fun discussion about it, talk about a few things. So Brian, I'll let you go first, man. Let's go and start with let's just go and start with the dream matchup. The one matchup that you'd want to see, whether it's singles, Intergeekdom, team, Star Wars, what is on your list?
My 1v1?
Yeah, sure.
So my 1v1 that I am, and honestly, I would kind of be surprised if it didn't happen, that I'm itching to see is an Evil Dewberry versus Josh McCouga.
Nice. It's probably going to happen.
I need to see that. I need to see a corrupted
That's awesome.
Dewberry.
That didn't even cross my mind.
Yeah,
that would be so good.
I need to see a corrupted Dewberry versus McCouga.
It's good.
It's good. I have to see, especially just after that match.
That post-credit scene.
Yes. Yeah. And just how, like...
Shannon's just, like, digging her claws. She's slowly digging her claws.
Everything. I think if anyone that you say that to is gonna smile, laugh, and be like, I want to see that. Just because it would just be so funny seeing those two just knowing how they were, and then just this like I just imagine like Dewberry being like Mark Hoyt, just like this evil like Dewberry, and just laughing the whole entire time, and Makuga just being like over the top, like come back, just like
it's gonna happen. It's 100%
it's going to happen.
Yeah.
It needs to happen, and that's the one that I want to happen. Like I was going through trying to think of like dream matches, but like if I could see anything right now, that's exactly what I would want to see. So I had to pick it. And even if it is probably something that is going to happen at some point, I need to see that because I will laugh the whole.
That'd be great. And like we said, after that post-credit scene with Dewberry's match, it clearly looks like that's where it's headed, and that's going to be a really fun, entertaining match. It should be a main event at a live event.
Absolutely.
Like that you put an evil Dewberry versus a regular Josh Makuga, and it's like people are going to come out in droves for that.
Oh my God! Can you imagine? Like that could be if you had that as like your not title match, but your like headliner, main event. That thing would fill up so easily.
Yes.
Like not even just to watch the actual like point for point, match for match. People are gonna want to just watch that just out of pure
100%.
hilarity and
100%.
entertainment. Like
Makuga will probably bring out a keg out on stage.
Oh, easily. I could just see him like throughout this match, like doing certain things, like tempting him, like putting beer out in front of him.
I think the way that you do it is you have the regular Makuga, right? The bright, flashy, colorful Makuga, but then you put Dewberry in a suit, and he's this evil, mustache twirling villain. Yeah, right. That's how you gotta do it.
That or like I literally picture like Sith robes, where he's literally just this like over the top, but like either way. I can't stop smiling just thinking about it because
that'd be good.
It's going to be hilarious and people are going to love it.
Yeah, that'd be good. I love the choice. Yeah. For me, so I only did one for each. I picked for my dream match. I picked a team scenario, but I just thought of a singles match that I'd love to see, and it has nothing to do with players. I would love to see a Tom Dagnino versus Roxy Stryer match. Because here's the thing.
If we were going to be able to use managers, and that was one.
So here's the thing. So Roxy is well known for not really being great at trivia, right? She just kind of blinks. Yeah. She just kind of blinks. Dagnino just isn't really great at trivia. It could be literally like a 3-4 game, but just like you had mentioned with the Makuga Dewberry, the hilarity of the match itself, the entrances, the crap talking going on, just everything happening during the match is what I would love to see. And, obviously seeing Roxy first time is that, but how Dagnino kind of operates compared to how Roxy operates, I would love to see it in a match atmosphere outside of just being them managers on the mics.
Yeah, I honestly, I've been like thinking about it and really hoping, but it would be very, very one-sided, is to see like a managers tournament.
Well, they've done a manager bowl before.
I know, but I'm saying with the factions right now. But who's going to beat Sam Levine as the manager? Yeah. It's unfair. So, but just like, I mean, tell me you wouldn't kill to see Dagnino versus Roxy, Kaiser versus Robert Meyer Burnett, like all these
100%, 100%
hilarious. Coy versus
Jay Washington or Winston.
Yeah, or even Shannon versus someone else.
Kate.
Oh my God. I might change mine to be
that. Oh my God. Shannon versus Kate?
Oh my.
Woo!
That would be hilarious.
That'd be great.
We need to pitch that somewhere.
That'd be great. We should tweet Harloff. Tweet at Harloff. Harloff, if you're ever, I'm going to tweet you the show. Kate versus Shannon exhibition match or something. That'd be amazing. You should do exhibition matches with managers. You should have Kate versus Shannon and Dagnino versus Roxy. Like there's two matches right there.
I need to see Kaiser versus Robert Meyer Burnett.
Yeah, for sure.
Can you imagine how loud and obnoxious that match would be?
For sure, 100%. It'd be amazing. Amazing.
Oh my God, that is so good.
100%. That'd be awesome.
I'd love to see that.
Cool. All right. Well, let me talk about the one match that was really on my list. that I would love to see, and it's my all-time two favorite teams that I've ever seen during the Schmodown, and that is the Shire Wolves versus the Above the Line.
Okay.
That is Clark Wolf and Rachel Cushing versus Drew McWeeny and Sam Levine when they were both at their height. To me, they are the two greatest teams to ever do it. That's because they are my two favorites. The knowledge is off the charts, obviously, and they have both proven themselves constantly. Above the Line was cut short because Sam Levine, once he got both titles, he basically just hung it up. I would have loved to have seen what their run was. And I know for you, it's different because you weren't watching when Above the Line was making their run. It's hard for me to decide who is my more of a favorite team, but just that run that Above the Line had made, and Drew McWeely's rise, and Sam Levine's kind of comeuppance after he had struggled a little bit, and the run he went on in both teams and singles, and then you flip it with Rachel Cushing and Clark Wolf. We all know what they did and what they did for the league. Just seeing that kind of match, it would be instant fireworks. Like the knowledge out of those four players is insanity. In my opinion.
That would be wild.
Yeah, have you seen any of the above the line matches?
I haven't. I didn't tell you, but I actually just started.
You went rewatching?
From the very beginning, going through everything. So one day I'll get through it all. But I have a lot more time now to watch it. But yeah, I've heard of the stories, the tales of how good this team was and how good they are, and just stuff like that. So yeah, I can only imagine how crazy that would be.
Yeah, if they ever do like a retirement series, an exhibition, or they just do one exhibition match where they're looking
Problem
to bring...
is no one stays in retirement.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, right now it definitely looks like for the time being that all four of them are. Drew McWeeny, his work schedule has taken over. Sam is managing. Clark is the commissioner, and Rachel really is the only one at the moment that could really come out of retirement.
But as said, she's not.
For at least for this year, she's not doing it. And so if they ever did something like that, that'd be awesome.
Yeah.
So do you have another one you want to talk about, or do you want to move on to our dream team ups?
No, because my other ones were going to be the managers.
All right,
but
cool.
Yeah.
Cool. All right, let's go ahead and go to our dream team ups.
So I have kind of like two versions of the same one. Because I can't really decide who I would want on this second person on one of my teams. I would like to see a teams match in Inner Geekdom.
Love it.
Of Kalinowski. This might be a little too stacked, but a Kalinowski and Smets team versus either Damon and Rachel Cushing, or just flat out Kalinowski Smets versus the Shire Wolves. Just because.
In Inner Geekdom?
Yeah.
I would put Mara with Rachel.
Oh, that's even okay. I take that.
Or you would flip them and maybe do.
Because to me, don't sleep on David.
No. I'm not sleeping on him at all. But he has to prove himself more.
Exactly,
he does.
But
I would maybe, because I feel like the rivalry between Cushing and Kalinowski is too strong. You separate them and you do a Kalinowski and a Mara versus a Smets and a Cushing.
Yeah, I just more or less kind of wanted to see Kalinowski and Smets on the same team and see how that.
You could definitely do like a battle of the sexes. There you go, an Inner Geekdom battle of the sexes. You do a Kalinowski and Smets versus a Cushing and a Mara and a Konopik. Right? You just imagine that title card, Kalinowski and Smets versus Cushing and Konopik. Yeah, are you kidding me?
It would be wild.
And it's a teams Inner Geekdom match, which is even cooler.
Yeah.
And I mean, yeah, that's awesome. That would be pretty cool.
Just because I feel like it would be so interesting to see Smets and Kalinowski work together in this. I almost feel like that might be too powerful of a team because, like,
I would take Rachel and Mara.
Yeah, dude, I don't know.
Because the reason why, actually, I will hold off on that because I don't know if we'll ever see it. But we'd have to have a full discussion on this. And I think that what we would do is probably take each of them in their heyday. Correct?
Oh yeah.
And so they're not in its current state, but whenever they are at the height of it, we would just basically transport them to that match. At this moment I would probably take Cushing and Konopik based on the fact that Mike stumbles a lot.
See, that's why
Rachel and Mara, when they were both doing their thing, they rarely stumbled. Kevin Smith doesn't stumble either. He had the one stumble with Don't Tell Peter, right? That's washed away for now. Rachel and Mara, they may have had their slight malfunctions, but they never really stumbled like a Mike Kalinowski did, and that may, if it ever happened, may hurt Smets in the long run.
Yeah, I agree.
That would be great.
It would be wild.
That would be great.
It would be wild to see that.
So while you were talking about that, I actually had one more dream matchup that I thought about.
Okay.
And it's something that I hope to see one day, which is always in the precedent of seeing. We've been talking about it for like 2 years now. Is the Iron Man match between Alex Damon and Sam Witwer in Star Wars? They've talked about it. Obviously, Alex Damon has always said that the title doesn't feel his until he beats Sam Witwer. That's clear. I understand that. So hopefully we see that one day. But the one
that one was almost
too obvious. Yeah. So the dream team that I came up with, it wasn't a match. It was just a straight dream team. Two gigantic. Well, one of them's a gigantic ego. One of them has an ego that he doesn't realize. They're two completely different players, but they're so knowledgeable. Is a John Roca and a William Bibbiani. That team together.
Oh my God, they wouldn't shut up.
That's what I'm saying. And so they were on a faction once before. They were the Five Horsemen. Bibbiani came on once. He was very short-lived. He left. It was a big deal. That's why they have this rivalry with each other. But if there was ever a Schmoedown God saying, hey, you had a chance to put two players together and put them on a run, kind of like what Anarchy did, right? I would absolutely love to see a John Roca and a William Bibbiani together on a team, because quite honestly, I don't know if they'd be able to be stopped. At the height of their power, how Bibbiani plays and how wide range of a knowledge he is.
Bibbiani's barely stoppable right now.
And how Roca is compared with westerns, biopics. He has a little bit of the inner geekdom love in him, right? Just the two of them together would be incredible. Yeah. Incredible. Like,
that would be scary.
They're both unstoppable on their own rights, but then you have Roca with Murrow, obviously, which is right now, they could go down as one of the most legendary teams ever. The Beast is with the Kid, and they're proving themselves with Shazam, but just imagine the Beast and the Outlaw together on a team and how powerful that would be.
Yeah, I'm literally in my head scraping through trying to see who I would be able to even put against them. It would have to be Murrow with
Sam Levine?
Yeah.
A Murrow with Sam Levine, a Murrow with a Drew McWeeny in his height, a Murrow with a Rachel Cushing,
yeah.
A Murrow with a Clark Wolf. That'd be incredible.
I was even thinking, even scraping, Irwin or, I don't even know.
Ben Bateman wouldn't be a bad choice either.
That was my other one, was Bateman, too.
His knowledge is great as well.
So, yeah, that would be scary. That would literally be how do you even beat that?
Mm-hmm. And they're two of my favorite players, which is why I did it.
Yeah.
Another one I thought of, which I don't. I guess it's obvious at this point because we all know, but a Rachel and a Sam Levine, because of how different they counter each other so well.
I was trying to think of couples that could do this.
Mara and Dan.
That's too good.
Mara and there should be an exhibition match of a Mara and Dan versus a Rachel and Sam. Are you kidding me?
Holy crap.
Are you kidding me?
That
match would be awesome. Just like a fun monthly match. Two inner geekdom players and two singles players. Woo!
That would be.
There's my dream match right there. There it is. That's so your Kalinowski, Smets, Cushing, Mara thing. There's mine. Murrell and Konopik versus Rachel and Sam. A couples match essentially.
Because that works perfectly too. Mm-hmm. Because you have
and you open it to everything.
Yeah.
Inner geekdom questions and movie questions. Everything.
It's perfect because you literally have the equals of Murrow and Levine, because they're both singles for the most part, singles teams, whatever. And then you go geekdom with Rachel and Konopik. Dang, that's almost too perfect of it. Are you tweeting it right now?
No. I'm definitely going to be tweeting at Hard Left later. I'll just share the link once it's posted to the show. But that's what I wanted to check. Another one I would want to see is a Dan Murrow versus Sam Levine. They never played each other.
Yeah.
Because when Sam was on his run, Dan was retired. And when Dan came back, Sam was retired. They never played each other.
Dang.
Those two together as one-on-one would be incredible. Oh, wait, you know what? They played once. They did play once. It was after the second Dan had won the title. against, I want to say it was John Roca. Sam came out and challenged him, and they played each other. But it was never a lead up. I want to see a legit lead up where they're both kind of like hyping it up against each other. That's what I want to see.
There's some wild, man. God, the couples one would be
The couples one would be incredible. Would be so fun.
that would be wild.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. Any more off the top of your head?
No. I mean, I
covered all of them.
I'm still thinking about that couples one because I keep thinking like, oh well, egos, but none of those people have egos.
Especially if it's just like a fun exhibition match.
Yeah.
It's just straight for bragging rights. That's all it's about. There's no titles on the line, no point standing, nothing like that. It's just straight for bragging rights.
Yeah, that'd be pretty sweet.
Yeah.
That one. All of these would.
100%. I'm gonna make sure I share this to Harloff. Or anybody in the show if you guys are listening. If you guys are listening or watching for that matter, let us know in the comments what your guys' dream matchups would be, or dream teams, or whatever. We obviously threw a lot out there, but there's a lot of other players that we did not mention. You can tell that we have favorites, and we want to see favorites teamed up with favorites, but make sure you guys are letting us know. You guys can tweet at us as well, at SchmoedownPOV. Let us know on Twitter. Don't have an Instagram or anything like that. Twitter is the best way to find us, so make sure you guys leave some thoughts down below as well. All right, Brian, let's go ahead and break down these points, man. Cover us in the latest faction report, as they're calling it, up until the Pride versus the Butcher Boys match.
All right. Oh, excuse me. I'm sitting in the singles division one. This is as of, like you said, this Pride versus Butcher Boys. In sole place, the first place is the Finstock Exchange with 14 points. Second place is the Den with 10 points. Third place is Swag with 7 points. Fourth place is Rockstars with 4 points. And Burning Droogs are sitting in fifth place with 4 points. Burning Droogs has played one more match at this point than Rockstars. Sixth place is the Corky Mercs, sitting with 3 points. Seventh place is the Usual Suspects, sitting with 2 points. In eighth place, it's Corruption, also sitting with 2 points, but they have played 4 matches to Usual Suspects, 3. And sitting in last in ninth place is the Dungeon with 0 points.
Yeah, not a whole lot of change since we talked last. There hasn't been a lot, and unfortunately, we're not going to see the plethora of matches that we would have if world events had not been going on. I will say this. Corruption is definitely a little bit of a shock to me at this point. I know that their matches have been focused on with some players that are first time, the Bonnie Somervilles, the Cleet Wiggins of the world. The one win coming from Corruption.
They've played the most new,
and they had, and then the Mark Hoyk and Dewberry match. The Experiment?
The
Experiment, right?
First finals.
And so those are their 3 losses. The Team Corruption getting the win there, going to the title match against the Founding Fathers.
And now I'm literally going through it. They're they've almost played all of their new people compared to some of these other teams.
Yeah, and so they're definitely a little bit of a surprise down there. We talked about the Dungeon. We haven't seen much of the Usual Suspects or Quirky Mercs at this point, which we revealed that I'm riding or dying with Quirky Mercs this year, and so but look, the Den and Swag, we talked about this on our very first show. We kind of did like a little post draft breakdown. The Den and Swag were 2 of the teams that we were talking about. They had incredible drafts. Winston and Jay Washington, and then Kate Mulligan and Grace Hancock, 2 teams who have 2 brand new managers, but advisors at their hand. They obviously did it right, and we know what the Finstock Exchange has. They were given 4 champions at the beginning of all of it. Like
they were walked in with 4 belts.
They were clearly going to have the lead of the points at some point. But the Den and Swag, they're right there. I mean, the Den has proven itself. Right now, they're 4-2. That's great. Right? Swag is 2-2, but they have the points where it matters right now, right? In the Inner Geekdom is where it's getting it big time. Because Winston has Chandru, who's now going to a title fight up against Smets. Rockstars only has the 2 matches played, but again, she's got the points right now because of Alex Damon and his TKO, if I'm not mistaken, of Emily Rose Jacobson. And so definitely some weird positioning, but hopefully everything going on right now kind of cleans itself up, because we want to see more matches from these factions. Because if not, it's going to be a 1, 2, 3-headed race at the top, and no faction below them is going to be able to catch up.
Yeah. I would like to see Finstock Exchange get less matches. I feel like they played 7 to Dungeons 3, or Rockstar's at this point 2.
Just because they're high in the standings, those teams like who's the boss is high in the standings. Damn Earl, right?
So it just, if you're going for championships, you have to unfortunately play through them, which gives them matches, and they don't really lose that much. So I would just like to see that 4 through 9 kind of start kicking it into gear, and hopefully the dungeon starts doing something, because I would hate to just see zeros for the longest time.
I agree. So hopefully it starts to even itself out a little bit, but for now, that is where we're at. Any final thoughts on everything we talked about today, Brian, before we get out of here?
No, I'm ready to pitch these ultimate matches.
I know, right?
Ultimate dream
we'll have to make
matches.
sure we tweet all over again. So, but yeah, thank you guys for joining us. If you are listening either on Apple Podcast, Anchor, Google, Spotify, we thank you guys for doing that. Make sure you guys hit that subscribe button on the audio form. It really, really helps us get seen more. If you guys want to give us a rate as well, whether it's good or bad, just ratings in general help us shoot up the charts. More people are going to recognize the show and see the logo and everything going on with the Schmoedown. And if you guys are not listening on audio, just search. You can probably find us via Schmoedown or A Certain Point of View. Check us out there on all the audio platforms, as well as on YouTube. We live on YouTube as well. Hit that subscribe button, like, share, comment with all your thoughts and everything we talked about today. Really, really appreciate that, whether it's good or bad, again, because the more feedback, the better. And you guys can also find us on Twitter, like I mentioned before, at Schmoedown POV. Hit us up on there. We're doing polls every week. We're interacting with other reactors like Cinefanatics and Call to Action, and tweeting at competitors and talking to them. And so we're having some conversations on there.
We've been tweeting at Star Wars a lot, too.
We've been tweeting Star Wars. Yes, we did a recent tweet on some cool Star Wars stuff. Make sure you guys check that out. Got some good responses on that. But for now, that is the show for this week, guys. A Certain Point of View. For Brian, for Jake, we thank you guys for joining us. Make sure you guys check us out next week on Wednesday. That's when the show drops, on Wednesday. And, we're working on some possible guests, and hopefully we have a guest for next week. So again, thank you for joining us. We'll see you guys next time. Happy Schmoedown.